Thank you, Chairman Bukes and members of the committee. Good evening. I'm here to explain in 7 minutes how radiation from cell phones and cell phone towers, like all forms of electromagnetic radiation, penetrate into the body, may damage cells, and potentially cause disease. But first, let me preface my talk by stating that I'm a practicing board-certified diagnostic radiologist who, like all radiologists, trained in radiation physics. I spend my days interpreting the images created by exposing the human body to different forms of radiation. In healthcare, radiation can be used to treat and diagnose disease like cancer that can also cause disease and is therefore tightly regulated. Following are some pictures and videos I'd like to present to make a point. This is a chest x-ray. We are able to obtain this image because x-rays produced by an x-ray machine penetrate through the patient's chest and expose a plate on the opposite side of the body. X-rays are a form of electromagnetic radiation. In this image, you can see the finger glowing red when it is placed on a bright light. This is because light, like X-rays, can penetrate through the body's tissues. Light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. By placing a body in a strong magnetic field and subjecting it to pulses of radiofrequency radiation, we were able to get images like this one from an MRI of the shoulder. This technology is possible because both magnetic fields and radiofrequency radiation, just like light and X-rays, penetrate through the body and affect atoms and molecules. Now, this graphic depicts the continuum of frequencies that comprise the electromagnetic spectrum, and I placed the 3 images in the respective frequency bands. Microwaves and millimeter waves produced by the 5G network are demarcated by this sun. These frequencies also penetrate into the body. As you know, there are 3 bandwidths of frequency in the 5G network. The highest frequency band includes frequencies between 20 and 40 gigahertz. A meter recently became available to the public for the high frequency band detection. I'm going to show you a couple of brief videos demonstrating the use of this detector. I took these videos with my cell phone in airplane mode, and there were no other sources of 5G radiation and no Wi-Fi in the house. Now, if you look at this first video, which was taken in an interior room, you'll see the green indicator light is on, and the display reads less than 5 microwatts per meter squared. This is background. In this next video, you can see outside the front door of this home, there is a pole-mounted 5G small cell across the street. If I take out the detector and I turn on the volume, you can see that the radiation emitted from this small cell is erratic but continuous. The maximum tower density coming from the antenna on this front stoop is over 10,000 microwatts per meter squared. In this final video, you see radiation exposure one would receive in a 3rd floor bedroom with the window closed while lying on the bed. You can still hear the detectors picking up radiation, and while lying in bed, the person is still receiving a dose or power density of over 700 microwatts per meter squared. All forms of electromagnetic radiation penetrate the body. Some frequencies penetrate deeper than others. Unfortunately for all of us, and I do mean all of us, government regulations are still based on research performed by Hermann Schwann, a distinguished scientist who in 1953 said that heating effects should be used to determine safety limits for microwave radiation. I remember my father telling me when he was in college in 1953, he had heard over the cafeteria loudspeaker that Watson and Crick had discovered DNA. Yes, we've learned a lot since 1953. One of those things is that non-thermal effects occur in the body from non-ionizing radiation. Scientific studies have repeatedly shown that exposure to radiofrequency radiation can cause individual cells in the body to become stressed. The longer a cell is stressed, the greater the likelihood it may malfunction. You might think that the term stress implies a manageable state and that it's not a big deal, but let me clarify. Stress weakens the body's tissues. Just as stress can cause a bridge to collapse, stress can cause a bone to fracture, an ulcer to develop, or an organ system to fail. When cells undergo stress, unfortunate things can happen. Membranes which protect the cell and control the cell's internal environment can become damaged, causing the cell to lose its ability to function and put the cell's life at risk. The cell's mitochondria can become damaged, and produce less energy and run less efficiently. If one continues to eat the same amount, but his or her cells can't use that food efficiently, they will gain weight and become obese. Proteins in the stressed cell can become damaged and denatured. This may sound esoteric, but consider that many diseases now common in our population, like Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, and amyloidosis, are all associated with protein denaturation. And importantly, when the cell is stressed, its DNA can become damaged, which can lead to mutations and possibly cancer. The impact of malfunctioning cells on one's clinical health status is determined by which cells and organs are damaged. If the thyroid gland is damaged, one will have clinical manifestations from abnormal thyroid function, including increased risk for cardiac arrhythmia. If radiation exposure affects white blood cells, it can cause immune dysfunction, making one more susceptible to disease. If the brain is affected, one may experience confusion, memory loss, ringing in the ears, vertigo, insomnia, and other symptoms. If a man's testicles are exposed, testosterone levels can drop, and sperm can become damaged, lose motility, and experience DNA fragmentation. Yes, there are many, many more examples of health effects associated with exposure to radiofrequency radiation described in the literature, and these conditions are becoming more and more prevalent as technology becomes more pervasive. One final point. I've heard it mentioned that the high-frequency band of 5G doesn't or shouldn't penetrate more than a few millimeters into the skin. Whether or not this is true, the thyroid gland is often only a few millimeters deep to the skin surface, and so are the testicles. Interfering with the function of these glands can cause systemic endocrine dysfunction, and in addition, many important cells, including red blood cells and immune cells, are just below the skin surface. Radiation doesn't need to go deep to cause damage. Thank you.